it's not the words. That's what I want people. I am not here to help you to make a speech or to use better words. I'm here to show you messaging. Completely different. That's a complete.
Facial expressions changed.
Facial expressions changed. Tone, inflection, pause, how forceful you are. All of those things make a difference. And the reason why I want to start by saying that is because I work with people and people come and say, I want to, I'm making this big speech. Can you help me with this? Or I have this coming up and I want you to help me with this. And the concern is the words. And I'm more concerned about what's coming behind the words. All the words are, in my mind, are colors to paint the picture. But the words themselves is not the focus. Because I can use the right words, but if I have the wrong tone, if I have the wrong inflection, if it doesn't come off right, it's not going to hit the mark. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Okay, who's famous for that?
The brothers, which one? The surname escapes me now. Your president, one of your former presidents.
Lincoln?
No. The brothers, the one was a senator, the Kennedy.
The Kennedys, yes. So if you were to ask 90% of Americans who said, ask what, not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country, most would say that. And that's true, he did say it. He was not the first one to say it. I mean, of course, nobody's the first one to say anything, but he was not the first president to say that at his inauguration. 40 years before, President Warren Harding in the 20s said the same thing. He wasn't a good speaker. Nobody remembers. So I just wanted to bring that up because it goes to show the power of the word. When I'm talking about the word, I'm talking about the word beyond words. I'm talking about the word. It's really that deep. So when we're talking about words, and this is where, so this beginning session or the first session is where I want to just talk about what the impact of words are, because it is really powerful. So the Greeks used when they talk about word, they didn't think of word as being like something on a page. They saw it as being energy. It was an actual living life force. The reason why I think that's important is because really effective speakers understand that they're not transmitting words. They are transmitting, hear me on this, they're transmitting energy, emotion. It's a deeper level that's being transmitted. The words are just the vehicle. That's all they are. The tone is a vehicle. The inflection is a vehicle. All of that is a vehicle in order to understand what I'm really trying to transmit. That's why you can have somebody stand up in front of an audience, for instance. I saw this growing up in church many times. The pastor may not have said a word. For 2 minutes, he's just, and the crowd is getting worked up because it's something that's happening. It's not the word. It's not what you say. It is that you are the vessel. Keep that in mind. The minute you forget that you're the vessel, then that's when things start falling apart. I remember in college, I lost this race that I was running for class president. I was angry, it was re-election time. And I went into, it was a debate. And I remember I went into the room angry. And I wanted people to know how angry I was. And the crux of this story is that I went into that room, and I'll never forget this. It was about 100 people in the room, it was pretty packed. And I began to speak. And I did not recognize at that point the power of words. When I tell you that for 30 minutes, I railed. I went on and on. I was debating, because this was a debate. So I'm pulling out how they should have elected me before. It's a lot of self-righteousness and self-aggrandizement. And I'm calling people out and all of this other stuff. And I remember when it was all over, the anger that you could feel in the room. When I tell you the room felt hotter, it felt hotter. It wasn't just like in my mind. There were people that wanted to fight me. It got really bad really quick. And I'm bringing this up because I said to myself that day, I will never again use my words in that way, because I was angry and I wanted people to know I was angry. And what I did was I spoke to that anger. And this is not to get political, but I think it is important to bring up this point. 1 week after Hillary Clinton lost the election, she was doing an interview. And they asked her, do you think that Donald Trump spoke to the hurt of the nation? And she said he spoke to their anger and to their fear. Big distinction. Powerful, because effective speakers, even when they're taking people in the wrong direction, they understand the power of speaking to that thing. I want to start there because I really want you to get that. We're not speaking to people's ears. We're not speaking to their intellects. We're not even speaking to their minds. It's that heart that you're speaking to. It's that deeper level that you're going to. It's the place where, you know how, and we've all been in this place where someone told you something and you thought about it, you thought about it, you thought about it again, and those words stuck with you for months and they stuck with you for years. That's the power of words. That's what you have the power to do, whether you're in a courtroom, you're in a classroom, you're in a church, you're in a conference, you're on a Zoom, you're on a webinar. You have the ability to say something that changes the landscape. That really is the power. I want you to understand it. That's the power of the word. So when you go in, for instance, because I want you to think the end from the beginning, and let's say they say you have an argument that you're making in front of the court. My question isn't, for 20 minutes, what do I say? What's the one thing I'm trying to get across? So that's the point I'm trying to get to now. When we talk about conciseness, this is the key. What's the one thing? You're going to hear me keep going back to that theme. When you watch that valedictory speech, I want you to check out the theme. It's a theme that comes out. And when I tell you 10 years, and it's not particularly that great of a speech. It was just, I guess I was younger and passionate and all that. But watch the speech. And when I tell you 10 years from now, people come up to me still and they mention 4 words from that speech. You'll know it immediately once you watch the speech. But what do you want people to remember? You want to talk about conciseness and brevity? What are you really trying to transmit? See, good speakers feel like what I have, you need. Great speakers understand it's already in you. I'm just speaking to what's already in you. You already have a fear of, like in this case of 4 years ago in this country, people already had a fear of immigration. So the politicians just harped on that fear. It wasn't that they're trying to convince people immigrants are bad. People were already convinced of that. So they're speaking to that piece. So that's the question you have to ask yourself whenever you stand up. What do I want to speak to in that person? Really, that's what you're asking yourself. Am I speaking to the higher self or the lower self? What am I really trying to get to? What am I really trying? That's what you want to ask yourself. When I'm speaking, am I speaking to their hurt or am I speaking to their hope? Am I speaking to their purpose or am I speaking to their pain? Now, I can speak to their pain positively, but am I speaking to it in a way that's going to exacerbate it and exacerbate the fears? The reason why I think it's important to know this is because when you become intentional about these things, your speaking takes an entirely different direction.
Is it always an emotion? Sorry. Is it always an emotion that you're appealing to or that you're reaching out to in that person?
Not really. So that's a great question. Not really, because to me, solely emotion is sort of surface level. I think what I'm speaking to is that deeper core essence of who they are and that hope. So that's real, and we're going to talk about that over the 7 weeks. Most people, when they think about speaking, they think about the delivery phase, which is how do you execute the speech, the presentation, the debate, the panel, whatever. But I want to talk to you also about the discovery phase, not just the delivery phase. We're going to talk about that more in the coming weeks. The discovery phase is the understanding what it is that that person or people are looking for. So in answer to your question, what am I speaking to? I'm speaking to that need. I'm speaking to that hope, but I can't speak to that if I don't know it. I don't want to get too deep into it now because we're going to do a whole session on just discovery. Discovery is how do you find what makes people tick and where people's hopes are. I don't know if that's just something that just automatically, I mean, some of it is, but it's going to depend on the situation, the circumstance, but that's important. We've all been in a situation where somebody's tried to sell you the wrong thing. and you want to say, I really don't. Just the other day, somebody called and they were talking to me about giving me a better rate on my car insurance. I waited for them to finish and then I said, well, maybe first I purchase a car. I mean, I don't have a car. So, but that's an example, right? Of you have this speech in your mind, no matter how eloquent that person was, they weren't about to sell me because I didn't have that need.
Yeah.
So that's also important. I mean, it's sort of like simple as that example is, I think that happens so many times where we have in our mind, and that's part of the problem. We focus on the words as opposed to the message, as opposed to the audience, as opposed to the listener, as opposed to the other end. We're focused on what we want to say and what we want to get across, not really recognizing that that person has their own agenda or things that they need to hear, right? So part of it is an art. But that discovery phase is asking questions, listening to what's bringing them there. Why are they listening? But that's my question though. How would you? I guess that's the question. How do you determine their needs? Because I get what you're saying. They're going to give you a topic. They're going to give you, presumably who the audience is, but I guess I'm asking you, how do you take that further step to determine what the needs are? Because you might be asked to give a presentation, actually, chances are you will be asked to give a presentation where the person who's asking you to give the presentation may not even be clear on what the needs of the audience are. They think they have their own needs, So how do you...
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I suppose I'm referring to the right? To prior to the presentation, whereas probably I would only be able to understand once I'm in the presentation and then get a sense, asking those questions.
Before, so you're asking before. So it's a number of things. So kind of tying that loop when I gave that, I don't think I closed that joke off so well, but the joke of the long, obscene 2-hour phone call where the police officer's like, why didn't you just hang up? What do you mean you want an obscene phone call for 2 hours? The question is, why were you on a call for 2 hours that you could have hung up on? So the point is, people are listening for a reason. So when people listen, even when they say no, it's something that they're listening for. Because I'm going to your question of how do you determine need? Why are they listening? I mean, we've all been in a situation where I know I have, where maybe I've walked up to a table, seen some merchandise, and maybe the salesperson comes up and says, what are you looking for? Nothing in particular, or I'm not interested, but I'm still saying that they're looking at the table because it's something I'm interested there. So the question is, how do you get to understanding what that need is? That's really what we're kind of dancing around. And it's going to be a lot of things. One is going to come with intuition. One is going to come the more that you do it, the questions that you ask. So kind of practically answering your question, whenever I'm asked to do a seminar, a speech, or anything, I want to ask as many questions to whoever that person is as possible. Whoever the person is that's coordinating, questions like, so what are you looking for me to say? What are you looking for them to hear? What do you think your students need, or your class needs, or your church needs, or your conference needs? I want to ask those things because that helps me tailor. And it's also going to help me Go ahead.
When you started this presentation, you asked each of us, what do we want to take away from this? What are we hoping to learn? Which helps you fine-tune your lectures or your presentation. You've got the base of your presentation, but depending what people want to take away, you can fine-tune it to tell them to focus on that.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And that's what we're doing. I mean, look, I've made plenty of speeches that did not land. It's just the bottom line. They just, I mean, really, it just didn't land. It was the wrong audience. The jokes weren't right. It happens. But I think with time, you sort of figure out what worked, and then you figure out in real time how to course correct. I've shown up for a presentation, whether it's a speech, an argument, something like that, debate, you show up and you realize this is completely different than what I thought it would be. So how do you sort of shift that? So the two things that are going to help you is what's your need and what's your message, or what's their need and what's your message. If you don't have a clear message, it's not going to come out clear. But if you have a clear message, right, and that message comes off, that message is clear in your mind, then you're able to continuously come back. So I know what their need is, and I know what my message is, and I can tweak it. And my message can fit on a bumper sticker. My message is a sentence. My message is not 3 pages. So let me give you an instance. When these actors release movies and they go on sort of these press junkets, of course, the interviewers want to ask about their personal lives. Who did you marry? I heard you broke up with somebody, this, and that. If you notice the good ones, they're able to redirect people where? Right back to the movie. The interview's about the movie. The message is about the movie. And if the movie is a particularly powerful movie that has some sort of social responsibility or some message, that's the message that they keep going back to. So that's what you have to ask yourself. What do you want to say? I've been in situations where I remember it was just last year, this woman on the panel, I mean, she just ate me alive. She just did. I can't say anything else. She ate me alive, called me everything but a child of God in front of all those people. And I really didn't have a response. And I realized it was because I really just didn't have a clear message. I was already in my mind, I had a lot of things going on. I mean, this happens with people, just going through things personally. And I went in, and because I didn't have a clear message, I was all over the place. So I guess I don't want to keep going on, but to answer that question, what is their need? What is my message? I find that a lot of people don't have a speaking problem, truly. They just have a messaging problem. They're asked to give a presentation for 20 minutes. They talk for the whole 20 minutes, and at the end of the 20 minutes, nobody's really clear on what was the takeaway here. They haven't broken, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'm going to help you with all of these. They haven't broken it down into bullet points. That helps people. People like that. I'm going to talk to you about 3 ways where you can stop digging and start climbing. 3 ways to come out of your rut right now. Number 1, boom. People like that. Don't just talk to me for 15 minutes and I feel dizzy. Let me know. And then when you do 1, 2, 3, I know when we get to 3, we're almost done. People follow along. People like to know where we're going, but I'm serious. So those are the little things that help. So when you go back and somebody is summarizing, you see the difference with, these are three tips to stop climbing, start digging and start climbing. These are 3 tips to pivot in my life. They said, write the plan, work the plan, get a network. You know what I mean? So I always might have these little catchy bullet points and then share more and give like a story, but it's things that you can easily refer back to as opposed to being 20 minutes where I just talked about, you see what I mean? Whatever.
Yeah.
What's the message? I see you smile. Go ahead, Kirsten.
Yeah, that's so helpful that you said like break your presentation up into sections, and then also at the end you can have a session to like reflect so that people aren't lost and that they feel like they're on track with you as you're going along, instead of just talking and rambling.
Yep.
And them not knowing when you get to your point. So yeah, that's so helpful. Thank you so much. Because I'm actually preparing for a presentation right now, a 10-minute presentation, and they were like, don't exceed the time. So like super helpful. Thank you so much.
Yes. And I'm gonna give you a little hint here. I never prepare for the time that they give me. Always shave off a third at least. You know, people say you have 30 minutes to make a presentation. You should not be preparing for a 30-minute presentation because you're gonna mess yourself up. You're gonna pack it with too much. You know, it's like I was working with somebody and they were doing a pitch. They had 60 seconds to make the pitch, kind of like I'm telling y'all. So I guess I'm giving y'all a little tip here. So the whole 60 seconds, and I'm like, how much of that did the person remember? You have 60 seconds to talk. Guess what that means? That means I have 30 seconds, really. Because I want to talk to you in a way that you remember. Why use 60 seconds to say 1,000 words when I can use 60 seconds to say 10 words that you're going to remember, that you're going to hold on to? So take that to the 30-minute presentation. I'm not going to talk for 30 minutes. They say, you know, Darrell, we want you to do a 30-minute presentation on whatever it is. I'm going to ask questions, I'm going to say, you know what, let's do it this way. Let me do 15 minutes and let me open up the other 15 for questions. Let me prepare some remarks because I know how I am. My attention span is short. 30 minutes is a long time to go on and on, especially when I've never met that audience. Now, if I give 15-minute remarks, I might find in 15 minutes from the first question, those 15 minutes really weren't where people's minds were. But it's good because I saved myself because, again, now I'm doing, question and answer, I love those sessions because that's a needs analysis. I'm finding out from the audience, not just the conference directors, because sometimes they're surprised. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've been brought in and they told me, oh, the audience thinks this, this, and this. Then the audience starts asking questions and you realize it's something totally different. Now I'm speaking to that. But I can't do that if they told me I have a 30-minute presentation and I've literally prepared 28 minutes, or I do what some people do. I talk for 25 minutes and at the end, do you have any questions? Which really just means no, because I haven't really invited you to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Also, and I know I'm just dropping nuggets here, but also I want to give people a timeline from the beginning. Hey, I know they gave me 30 minutes. There's no way I'm gonna do 30 minutes. But what I will do is I want to, for the next 15 minutes, I want to share some things with you that have changed my life. I want to talk to you about the 3 ways that I really just shifted and how it helped me. And then I want to open it up for questions because I really, really want to see what it is, where you are, and how I can help you. What do you think about that? You see what I mean? So people are on board. Now they know, okay, I know where I'm going with you. So now they're a part of the process. I've let them know it's a 30-minute thing, but for 15 minutes, I'm talking to you, and then I want to hear from you. And, you know, these are the 3 books. You see what I mean? I'm doing that rather than just talking. And then people
engaging.
There you go. That's the key. That's what I learned from church. That was the skill that I learned out of church. I mean, that's not the only skill, hopefully. But if it's the one transferable thing that I learned from speaking in church, it's that engagement, the call and response. So obviously in a corporate setting, I'm not going to say, no, but I'm going to say, that's my call and response. How do y'all, you know, is everybody fine with that? The 15-minute remarks, and then we open up for questions. And you have people, hey, yeah. So now, you see what I mean? Now I've got some buy-in. So let's say my 15 minutes goes to 20. People are cooler with that because they feel like they're on a journey with me. All right. The last 5 minutes that I really want to talk about here, because this is where we're gonna pick up next week. Stories. People love stories. So I want to hear, and this is going to be my challenge for you. You have 60 seconds. Tell us who you are to make a presentation next week. Somehow you've got to introduce a story. I don't know how you're going to do it. People like stories. People connect with stories. I'll give you a tip. People will listen longer with a story. Stories are less preachy. They can teach whatever lesson you want to teach without it feeling like, you know, you're the master of it. And people will engage with that. A story can be a sentence. or a story can be 2 hours, you know? So what does that look like for you? What I want to show you how to do is to become a master storyteller. You know, the great effective communicators, they're great storytellers. They go from story to story to story, and they do it without it seeming like they rambling, but yet you're going with them. And I'm going to show you something. That's what, when we start talking about great storytelling, that's what all the effective communicators are doing. The politicians, they, you know, at the higher levels, they're not talking about, you know, policies. They're talking about people. They talk about Henrietta out in Maryland. She's 80. She's got glaucoma. She's got a hip replacement. You know, she's dealing with diabetes. You know, and we want to change this law. Y'all know I'm right, but that's how they go, because that pulls on people's heartstrings. So they tell a story about the lady. Then the only reason they're bringing up the policy is but the story surrounds it. But the policy is not the focus, it's the person. You see what I mean? People connect with that. When you're in a courtroom, and Lord knows I've been on both sides of the courtroom, you know, they're not talking about the law so much. They're talking about the people in the case. This person did this. I mean, that's the story that's being told. That's a more compelling story than defendant A did A, B, C, and D. No. That man walked into that bar and did. You see me? You're telling stories. And if you think about it, really the person who wins is the one who told the better story between the defense and the prosecution. When you think about it, who told the better story from this set of facts? So I want to show you, how do you tell a story in a way that's engaging, but also teaches? Because if you tell a story right, it teaches the point. I don't have to give the point.